Cool. Hey, looks like we're live. This is amazing. This is so much fun. We have people in the waiting room and stuff. This is really cool. All right. Now we have, all right. How do we do this? All right. Anyway, we're live. I'm here to teach everything that I know about marketing. Everything that I know about marketing, but not today. Not today. We're only going to start the process, the journey today. So let me break it down for you guys. See if I can get my technology to do what I want it to do. So welcome to the marketing framework. Boom, boom. So I have my thing here. All right, here we go. So I'm going to share my screen, and you guys can, or my iPad, which I have down here. Bing, bing, bing. There you go. All right, I'm assuming that you guys can see an iPad here. Is that correct? Better than be. Otherwise you're lying. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. So the process, I've split this up, of this marketing conversation up into 4 main steps. And number 1 is brand. So brand is all about, like, who are you? What are you about? What are you about? So that's what we're going to start with today. And so brand is all about you, right? Who are you? And what are you here to do? Can you guys see me as well, or only my screen? I'm just curious how this stuff works. And I obviously can't hear if you're answering. So I don't know who I'm asking. All right.
Then we can see both you and the screen.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know. Thanks, Netta. All right, next, after brand, and I think you, right? Who are you? And now I can hear myself in echo, so that's great. So brand is all about you, who you are. Market, we're not using market as a verb here. We're using it as a noun. So that's the next topic, is like all about your audience, your customers, who they are. So that's the next thing we're going to get to. Not today, because there's so much stuff to cover here. Then we're going to talk about offer. So offer is what you're selling. It's your product, but offer is bigger than your product. Offer is everything that they're getting, right? Including the risks, including the downsides, including like the what it costs and all of that stuff. So that is offer. And then we're going to talk customer journey. I can't type. Journey. So that's the process in a nutshell. So we're going to talk brand. That's the topic of today. And we're going to, that will be next week's topic as well, because there's a lot to cover there just on the brand side of things. Then we're going to talk market, and then we're going to be talking offer, and then we're going to talk journey. And here's the thing. So all of this stuff here, up here, the first 3 pieces is essentially defining stuff. So that's getting clear on who you are, who your customers are, what you're selling them, all of that stuff. And then journey is the action part, right? That's where we put it all into motion. We're like, okay, given all of that stuff that we found out, this is how we're going to do things. Does that make sense? Can I see the chat somewhere? Where would I go to see the actual chat as it's happening? Nana, can you throw me a link, and then I can just like open that YouTube chat or wherever the hell that stuff is going at the same time? Then I can follow along. Thank you. All right. So let's get to it. Brand. Let's talk about brand. Boom. Brand. Brand. What color should we use for brand? Let's do this one. Brand. All right. So what is a brand? It's about a lot more than just values and like than like colors and you know, how things look, right? It's really about values. And the way that I think about brand, and the reason why I think brand is so critically important, is that what we're selling ultimately is not the thing. What we're selling, especially if you're in an information business, coaching business, teaching, education business, you are the product. You are the product. But it's not just for that type of business. It's really for any product business. Like Simplero is a software company. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I've heard that people bought Simplero because of me, that they're staying because of me, right? That they're attracted to me and to this brand, this character that I'm like, I mean, to who I am, but to how I'm showing up in the world. Super powerful. People buy that more than they buy the actual product. I'm turn this thing down a little bit. And the reason why is because, like, honestly, like, yes, like we're evaluating multiple products and sampling, right? You might check out like your Starbucks coffee versus your Dunkin' Donuts versus, or your Simplero versus your whatever else you might be using. I don't know why you would use anything else, but if you were, right? But you can't do practically like a detailed analysis of like all the last bits and pieces and all that stuff. In the end, we make decisions, buying decisions based on primarily based on emotion. I remember this years ago with my dad. My dad is a mechanical engineer. He had a company where he made stuff out of sheet metal and wood for gas stations. He literally like made the furniture, the desk and the counter and the place where you hang the candy and all that stuff in gas stations, for gas stations all over the world. That was my dad's business. And this is like 20 years ago, he bought this machine, this advanced computer controlled machine that could, flexible tooling, so it could do all kinds of things with this sheet metal stuff and make fancy kinds of things. And he was like a little boy. Like, it was clear that he was just like, he bought that machine as the CEO of a 150-person company purely for emotional reasons. He backed it up with logic, right? He backed it up with why it was a good financial, it was made sense, blah, 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 but it's very obvious to me as like a kids still living at home. I think it was like in high school, second grade of high school or something like that. It was super duper obvious that he bought this machine for emotional reasons, right? So that is a thing people buy for emotional reasons, and that's why brand is so important. Colors and like presentation is important too, but the most important thing is the values. Tony Shea from Zappos said at one point, I can share. I actually have some notes here that I can share in my little mind map. I'm just going to collapse it a little bit so it's not super overwhelming for everybody, including myself. Here we go. This is my becoming a marketing superhero mind map, right? So Tony Shea said, your culture becomes your brand. So that is for, he was the CEO of a company called Zappos, which sells shoes. He eventually sold it to Amazon because his investors want it out. I've met the guy a couple times. He's really cool. He's super sweet. So anyway, so his insight there was that your culture becomes your brand, right? In this day and age, the world that we live in, you can't hide who you really are. So it's all about investing in culture and building a really awesome culture for your company. And then that naturally becomes your brand, right? So thinking of it that way, which I completely agree with. And again, some of this is going to be different if you're trying to build like a company with like 50 people, 100 people or something like that, versus if you're a solopreneur, then think of it this way, right? That your reality, like who you really are becomes your brand. I remember reading years ago a book called The New Brand World, or A New Brand World as it's called. And in there, the author talks about how he had a branding agency and they got hired by Microsoft to work on the Microsoft brand. And after spending 3 weeks doing research, they had to cancel the contract because, as they said, brand is really about exposing the soul of the company. And I'm sorry, you guys, but Microsoft doesn't have a soul. So we can't work with you guys. right? We can't do anything for you. So I think that's very powerful. I think that's very powerful. On a side note, in 2008, when I was like really struggling, and I just discovered my life purpose as integrating spirituality and entrepreneurship, and I was like really excited about that. I still am 12 years later, super excited about that. That was the exact thing that led me to get into online marketing like a month later, literally a month after that sort of awakening moment. That's what got me into online marketing. And I was like struggling financially, and my parents came and they were like, Calvin, how about you take a job for Microsoft just for like 3 years to support your family? And I was like, ugh. I was like, you know, guys, you guys might as well go kill myself right now. You have no idea who I am. Like that, like, you know, Microsoft is the last company that I would want to work for, right? That's I'm like, oh, it broke my heart. I got over it. All right, so let's talk about what is a brand. A brand is about values, most importantly, right? What do you stand for? What do you stand against? It's about personality, right? How do you come across? And this again goes whether it's an individual or a company. So they're very closely related, right? And I think any company, any big company wants to have a person there that's visible, right? I mean, it's no accident that you know, Steve Jobs and Apple, like Steve Jobs really personified Apple. And now it's Tim Cook more, but they're still kind of keeping that like Steve Jobs thing alive a little bit. You know, Microsoft was kind of faceless, but then when they're struggling in the marketplace, they realized they had to put Bill Gates out in front, right? You know, Starbucks is Howard Schultz. Like we all know this. Like it's really powerful, really helpful to have that person. And there's that sort of dance between the founder or the leader of the brand, the character, the person, the actual real human being, individual, and the company. So if you're a small business, obviously it's even more important, but it's also still good to separate it, right? We have the Calvin brand and we have the Simplero brand, and they're very closely related, but they're not the same. They're not the same. Like Simplero is a different tone, etc., and slightly different personality and so on. So these are, you know, it's about values, about personality, it's about tone, it's about well, I wouldn't say it's about analogy, but we're going to get into the analogy piece in a little bit. I'm going to nuke that there. And then it is about how you present yourself, how you show up, right? So why do you want, what happens when you don't have a brand? What happens is that your audience gets confused because like it's here, there, and everywhere, and there's no coherency. You get confused, right? About what you should talk about, what you should put out, how to talk about things, how to say things. Throw your questions, by the way, in the chat while we're doing this. We might as well get your questions, if anything, or let me know what resonates with you. Just like chime in there so I know that you guys are there and I'm not all alone staring into just a camera in a room in New York. Another problem that will often happen if you don't have your brand defined is you end up with an audience that you don't like. Right? Because you're not being clear about who you are and the values of the people that you want to attract. Dilution, where things get, like, you know, it loses its magnetism and its power because it's like a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit everywhere, right? And you end up getting pulled in many different directions. All right, so what do we got when we have a great brand? Well, we have coherence, right? Things fit together, simplicity, clarity, enjoyment, right? It's more fun because you know what fits and what doesn't, right? And you get to work with people that see the world the same as you and that you like working with. You get a compounding effect of what you do because it builds on top of itself, and you get the ability to create a movement. We're actually going to talk quite a bit about the movement piece today. All right. Something that I'm a big believer in. Let me know if that all of this makes sense so far. All right. All right, cool. So I'll check the chat here. Yes. Perfect. And we'll see if we can jump in and get your questions after, by the way, when I'm done with this presentation today. So I don't know how long I'm going to go exactly, but I think I have scheduled to 1.5 hours. So that's we could potentially go 2, I think, with my calendar. So we'll see how that works out. All right, so I'm a huge believer in getting outside picture on who you are as a tool, as a help. For me, I had trouble. I didn't really know who I was. I was very confused about who I was. I was just speaking to someone, Aubrey, over at the Road to Rediscovery podcast right before this. And we were talking about this, like how you find yourself, how you figure out who you really are. And one of the things that I realized is, I think a lot of us, we grow up, think of it like a flower, right? I have a plant tree over here, right? So my wife keeps turning that thing every time. She's the one that waters it, right? If I was in charge of it, it would be dead. So she'll turn it every once in a while. Why does she do that? Well, because plants grow towards the light, right? It grows to where the light is. Well, we human beings tend to do the same thing. So when you grow up and your parents praise you for a certain type of behavior, then you do more of that. And then you might end up thinking that that's who you are. And so you grow up sort of lopsided in that direction, only later to discover, oh, I have all these other talents and dreams and ambitions and values and things that I'm about that's not that. And what's that stuff? That's really interesting. And for me, especially, I think it's something it's super hard for me sometimes to know who I am. I like back in 2001, I had a coach through the job that I had, and she administered this DISC test, DISC. I'm sure a bunch of you guys are familiar with that. And it had both an adapted and a natural style, right? So what is your natural style and what's your adaptive style? And for me, the adaptive style was to be super analytical, like think everything through. And my natural style, according to this, is to be super intuitive. And so I was like, whoa, it was like totally mind fuck for me. I was like, whoa, because I wanted to be that. I had a manager who was very intuitive. And I was very inspired by that. And I was like, oh, I wish I was that way. Turns out I am. Turns out I am. Who would have known? And so I'm a big fan of using tools that help us find out who we really are. And I have a couple here that I wanted to share with you guys that I have enjoyed personally. One is the gene keys, which I have spelled wrong. I'm going to fix that right now. Gene keys. Anyone here familiar with gene keys? No, I'll show you guys. You can go to genekeys.com and do a free profile. It's super duper complicated, but I'm going to show you guys a little bit about it and how I use it. The other one is the Fascinate report. Her name is Sally Hogshead, I believe. And she has, her brand is like How to Fascinate, and it gives you a report. I can show you what that looks like too. And then the third tool that's really been helpful to me is hand analysis, but really kind of any tool will do. It'll help point you in the right direction. For me, I don't take any of these as gospel, but they're reminders. And then as I look at that, I'm like, right. There's something to that. I'd forgotten about that, or I might not have brought that up myself. So let me show you what the gene key stuff looks like, and then how I use that. If I can figure out, there we go. Just going to pull up a browser and some gene keys stuff, genekeys.com. And here we go. And then, so I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can see that. And then I've already done this. So I just go sign in here. And then over here somewhere under my face is my hologenetic profile, just because it has to sound super duper fancy, right? And here's how I use this, right? This up here. So I'm not going to go like super deep into gene keys, but it basically starts up top with what it says here, your life's work, and then down to evolution, and over to radiance, and then down to purpose, and then back up, and like this like square, this like round trip. And then there's like 3 different sequences. So it calls it activation, Venus, and Pearl. So I'm going to, for this, so this is a whole roadmap for your spiritual growth in life, this tool. and it's pretty darn complicated and pretty darn deep. For our purposes here, I'm only going to focus on the Perl sequence. And notice how in the activation sequence, this is called life's work, the one up top. And when you scroll to the Perl, it becomes your brand. So that's why I'm interested in this stuff right here, right, is the brand. So in this case, what I've done is I have looked at this, this profile, and I have created some notes for myself. So there's a couple of books. There is one about the Perl sequence specifically, and then there's a book about the gene keys in general, like the whole thing, where it has like, there's 64 different numbers there, and it has an explanation of each one. And so what I did was I went through all that stuff and created this here document, right, which talks about my brand. And so the words here are, there's 3 words. There's opinion, and then there is, that's too thick, isn't it? There you go. Let's try that. So there's opinion, and then there's farsightedness, and then there's omniscience. And they kind of work in, you know, like that. So what that says, and I'm not going to make this like a super deep gene keys course, but it basically says like, opinion is what you don't want. That's the shadow frequency. So that's what you want to evolve out of. And then where you evolve to is the gift, which is in this case farsightedness. And then there's a third layer, which is sort of the full-on spiritual layer, which is in this case the word is omniscience. And so then you go into the actual book and read about all what that all means. And then there's something called the line as well, which is also super interesting. So that kind of gives a tone to the whole thing. So I spent actually like quite a bit of time, like a couple of days going through all of this, probably more like 4 days going through the whole Perl sequence with the brand and all that stuff, and pull out a bunch of words here. And I'll just share for me. So the opinion level is all about being sort of stuck in opinions, right? So it's like you feel a need to defend, you have opinions about stuff and you feel a need to defend them, to be defensive about your opinions. So that is, you know, the unhealthy version of this for me, if in my brand case, right? Farsightedness is where you still have opinions, but you can see the other side of things, and you don't feel a need to defend anything. You're just like, this is my opinion, this is where I stand. I'm happy to talk to others, understand other people's opinions. If there's like, I'm fine with changing my opinion. If I have better ideas about stuff or better data, whatever, I'll change my opinion. That's fine. That is farsightedness. That's farsightedness. So it's kind of where I want to be. Omniscience is the next level up, where it's, you know, it's seeing everything at the same time and sort of seeing the divinity and the perfection in all of the things at the same time. Again, this is my personal brand. Like anybody else with a 17 brand here for this one over here. So what I encourage you to do if you're into this kind of stuff is like go look up your profile and your gene key there and just read through it. It's like 20 pages usually, these gene keys, and you read through it and just to highlight the things that appeal to you, and you pull out some words. And some of the words that I pulled out was like experiential wisdom, humor and pleasure. So these actually came from the line part of things, the changer, which is, there's a lot of humor and pleasure in that, like seeing the joke of existence, the unexpected, bringing solace to others through balanced and compassionate worldview, catch the attention of people through making them laugh. So the humor part is really important as part of my brand, and that resonates with me. And it's something that is easy for me to forget, because I'm naturally a humorous person, but it doesn't always come out. I can always also have a very serious side. And so just remember to have fun and laugh a little, and, you know, have humor as part of it. It's very important. And willing to take a risk to make a point was another phrase, right? So also with humor, teach others to laugh at themselves by me laughing at myself. sell by making people feel good about themselves, speak and sing our truth or my truth in service to the whole. It's funny that I think the book actually literally used that, speak or sing, and I'm a singer, so that's perfect. And I use music, I use songwriting for exactly this purpose, and I am, integrating it more into my brand. So that's absolutely perfect. That let the gentle fire inside your heart sing out on your voice. Speak the words that come from your heart without fear or compromise. Seeing this one I love is so perfect for me. Seeing everything from the minute mechanics of life to the whole big picture. So me. Integrity. Serve and uphold integrity by challenging all misrepresentations of truth in the world. Boom. Yes, exactly. Express the mechanics of oneness. We're all one, right? So expressing the mechanics of oneness in totally new and fascinating ways. Other stuff over here. Truth, love, and awakening. Finding the third view, outpouring of love, start from the heart, trust in the authority of the heart, see through the heart. And here's something straight from the book. The 17th gift is a mentally dynamic gift. It doesn't sit idly by with a philosophy of passive acceptance. It has purpose, and that is to understand the minute mechanics of life as well as seeing the whole picture. It is driven by integrity. Thus, the true purpose of the 17th gift is to serve and uphold integrity by challenging all misrepresentations of truth in the world. This is powerful stuff, guys. Like when I saw this, I was like, fuck yeah, this is me. This is so this has been super helpful for me to get clarity around my brand and what it should be. I hope that kind of makes sense, that you can see the power of that. Oh, there you go. Yes. And so the other tool that I mentioned is the Fascination Report. Let's see here. I'm going to log into that as well. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. I believe, here we go. Come on. Come on, the thing. Do the thing. Please, the thing, do the thing. Let me see. I saw someone, this was like a chat kind of thing here as well, right? Do I have that open? There you go. Boom. Nice. All right, I'm gonna open that. All right, cool. And then let me see here. I think this is, yeah, my complete profile, or what? My fascination profile, I'm not really sure. One of these guys should, yeah. So this one. So the what I like about this is like it's what other people find fascinating about you. So for me, they call it the maverick leader, pioneering, irreverent, entrepreneurial. Innovation and power. So this like again gives me some words, some things that I can look at, some inspiration for what I might want to incorporate into my brand. Okay, so I'm not gonna go super deep in that, but you get the sense, you get the picture. And then the final thing I put in here is the hand analysis. So if you're interested in that, you want to go to Beth.com, BAETH.com. She's my hand analyst. She's amazing. I can tell that story some other time, but it's a phenomenal tool. All right, so let's get into the actual practicalities of this stuff. So today I'm going to focus a lot on the value side of things, so that you can build a powerful movement. Because really, like if we do this right, it becomes bigger than you. You become sort of that lighthouse, that rallying cry that the right tribe can assemble around, right? That you collect your tribe, right? There's 7 point something billion people in the world, right? We don't need that many people to have a great business and a great life, right? And whether it's people that work for you or people who become your clients or customers or people who are just in your audience, your sphere, or like your inner circle of like close friends and confidants, as they say so fancily, right? whichever way it is, you don't need that many. You don't need that many people. So if we can be super clear about who we are and who we want to attract to our tribe, that is super powerful. And that's what the brand does. And Gene Keys actually goes quite a bit into that as well in the culture sphere. So you can check that out too. So let me see here. This is the one I wanted to share. Well, now it's sharing how do I do that? There we go. Ha! So I was going to draw that thing that you guys just saw for you again, but we can also do it the other way. So it's already pre-drawn. There we go. There you go. Look at that. Look at what the guy can do. So what we have is for your brand here, this is what we want. We want to have a group of people over on the left who have a desire for change, right? They're unhappy, as you can see. They are unhappy, and they want to change something about themselves, right? They want to change. They want to. Usually, there's the big three that we talk about. They want wealth, right? They want to make money or save money or build more wealth, or they want to want health, right? So better health, lose weight, be less sick, more energy, that kind of stuff, or relationships, right? So whether that's as a leader, as a manager, or as a spouse, or as a parent, or whatever it might be. But those are typically the things that they desire to change. Why don't we draw? This is fun. I want to draw. All right. It feels boring just to go through the thing that I've already drawn. So we have a person over here that has a desire for change. Boom, boom. Unhappy. There you go. Boom, 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 boom. Desire for change. So that's where we start. And again, that will be the topics after this, where we talk about market. There, we're going to talk a lot about what that desire for change is and who those people are, et cetera, et cetera. But then over here on the other side, we have someone who's happy because they already achieved whatever it is. And not only that, but they also are part of a tribe, right? So there's multiple of these people over here. If I could only figure out how to draw. Right, so now we have a tribe over here of people. Some are just heads, some have stick figure bodies, right? And so this is really the journey that we're taking people on, right? Your brand promises to take people on this journey from wherever they are today to being part of a tribe, of a community, and having achieved something or being on their way to achieving something. I mean, they've already achieved something. And obviously with any one of these, like wealth, health, or relationships, you can keep going and keep going and keep going, right? You can always get healthier. You can always get wealthier. You can always get better relationships. I'm a huge fan of PAFI, the workout, which helps me be younger every day, right? So you can always keep, well, I guess I'm going to hit 0 at some point now. So that is the transformation that we're taking people on. Transformation. And how do we do that? Well, that is where you come in, right? Because you are the fearless leader, right? And so what do fearless leaders have? They obviously have a red cape on, right? That's not fucking red, is it? No. I think it's red. I'm colorblind, guys. Excuse me. It doesn't, well, okay. It's the cape that this guy has for sure. And so this is you. You are the fearless leader. Fearless leader. All right. So that is you. So we're going to talk about all these things. We're going to talk about you, the fearless leader, who you are. There's going to be over here some kind of future that you're promising, right? What is that promised land that you're taking people towards? That goes over there. there's going to be, I don't know why this note is this dimension. I would want it to be bigger, but I can't figure out how to do that. All right, never mind. There is going to be a process. Well, there's going to be a process for taking people from this state over here and bringing them over here. And we're going to map out sort of what the steps are that you want to take people through your process at some point. But what we're going to talk about today is the process of creating this tribe, this movement, and attracting the right people. And so what that involves is a manifesto. So essentially what we want to do is we want to be clear on what are the beliefs that people have as part of this tribe. Like, what is it that we stand for? What is we stand against? I can write that down somewhere down here. Or I can make a new page and just do like, here we go. Stand worldview. Right. So you want to think about, what do I stand for? What do I stand against? Right. Who are my enemies? And enemies can be like real people. They can be companies. They can be beliefs. They can be intangible things. What is my primary promise? Right. So what is it that people get in that world, in that after state? What is the result that we're about? What are my core values? What are my core beliefs? What are my absolutes? It's very attractive for people when you speak in absolutes, when you speak very clearly. Like it's always, never, 0, 100%. Like I'm a very nuanced person. It's very helpful to speak in complete lack of nuance. And then you can always add the nuance later, but that's how you get, like, that's how people get what you're talking about. And then stories that people can tell themselves or tell others. And stories that you tell them, right? So stories are a huge part of all of this stuff. So over here, we're going to need some enemies. And it's very important to have some outsiders, right? And they're obviously unhappy because they're not welcome in our tribe. So they would love to be part of the tribe, but they can't be. It's very, very important that they're outsiders. They're people who do not belong. It's very important that you're willing to kick people out who don't belong, right? Because otherwise you water it down, you dilute it. Everybody else is going to be lose respect, and it's going to lose its value. So these are the fundamental elements of creating a brand, a movement, a tribe. So let me see here. Let's go into, let's workshop that a little bit, and you guys can follow along for yourself. So if I were to do this and I'm going to put a background on this thing, because then it's easier for me to see where the hell I am. There you go. So we have the desire for change, right? So we want to start talking about trying to get some specific with this stuff. So desire for change is the first thing that we want to look at, right? And if I were to look at, let's create something here that we can all share. So this is desire for change, boom, boom, boom. And let's talk about what that might look like for Simplero. And then we can look at what that might look like for Calvin brand, for example. And we can do PAFI also. That could be fun. Just to workshop it. And like again, you guys can follow along and do this for yourselves, for your brand. And so notice how I have Calvin brand here and I have Simplero, right? As two separate things, So desire for change for Simplero would be, I think the main thing is like our ideal client at Simplero is somewhat, and again, so Simplero, for those of you guys that don't know, is, integrated software for information marketers, for coaches, authors, speakers, consultants, trainers, people who sell information, not physical products, but information is their primary business, right? So the thing that sets Simplero apart is that it's integrated, and we have this concierge service integrated. And so I think really what attracts people, the ideal client for us is someone who knows what they're doing already, and they are done with shiny objects, and they're done with best of breed. Shiny objects and best of breed. So the desire for change is like, I'm fed up with this thing. Like, I have to log into like 8 different fucking systems just to get anything done, and I don't know even how shit is set up anymore. I'm dependent on this web guy. What if he leaves? What if I'm like, brr. Like, just done with that. And like all these people who tell me that you need this tool and this tool, and like before you know it, you have like 15 different freaking subscriptions for things that you don't even know what they are anymore, right? And why you're still paying for them. And then they break down while you're in the middle of vacation, and you're like, shit, like you don't even know which thing to log into or where the disconnect happened. And you're just like, I think that's the desire for change that Simplero is perfect for. Then they come over to us, and then they find peace of mind, and we can take good care of them. For Calvin brand, I'm not sure, but I think there's a, like, if you look at my journey, my story, so a lot of this stuff is going to be, your personal, your own hero's journey, right? Like where you've done, where have you gone? Like, you had, if you guys are familiar with the hero's journey, it's essentially like, ordinary world, right? You're just living your life. Then there's the call to action, which is where you're like, oh, something's broken, something's not working in my life. I have to make a change. Like it's, the ordinary world breaks, right? There's something that prompts you to take action. And then there's the meeting with a mentor, right? Where you find someone who can guide you. And then there's, all the ups and downs and fighting, slaying the dragons and all that stuff. And then eventually you return back home with the elixir, with the magic potion that you can then share with other people. That's, in a nutshell, the hero's journey. So a lot of the times, if we're in the information business or a personal brand business, it's about sharing what you learn, right? So the desire for change is probably linked to your own call to adventure. It might not be, but oftentimes it's gonna be, right? And so for me, that was like, I think it was like life was fucked up, and I was just tired of shit being fucked up. Yeah, tired of being fucked up. I don't know. Like I'm not married to this quite yet, but something along those lines. Desire for change. Maybe there's like, probably just pain and low grade uncomfortableness, and maybe there's a fear of getting older. You can see my typing here. It's terrible. So that's what a desire for change could look like. Okay, we'll move a little quicker here. So next up, we want to talk about the future, a bright future. So what could that look like? In the case of Simplero, I'm going to write out the different labels here, so we have that done. We're going to talk about slogan. We're going to talk about a new identity. We're going to talk about manifesto. If I could spell manifesto. And we're going to talk about enemies. And we're going to talk about the result that we're offering people. So that's roughly the order that we're going to go in, or it is the order we're going to go in. Draw some more lines on this fine little thingy here. Look at me drawing lines on a thing in virtual reality. Holy shit, you've never seen such beautiful lines drawn ever before. I guarantee you that. Those are just two awesome lines. Okay, so and let me just circle back here to what we were looking at over here, because you'll see how it all fits in. So the manifesto is the thing that draws people. Oh, you guys are not seeing what I'm seeing. When did that stop? This happens sometimes where it stops sharing my thing. So I sit there all cool and drawing stuff, and like nobody sees what I'm doing. That's not cool. There you go. There you go. We have got the guy with the cape again. All right. So the way this works is the manifesto is the thing that draws people in. And what I mean by that is that you talking about what you believe in is what draws people in. A lot of us do, and I've done that a million times. We do marketing where it's like, hey, like, do you have this pain or do you want this result? And you can absolutely do that, and that can work. But it's super powerful to capture people with beliefs and ideas. You're like, I believe that it shouldn't be this way. I believe that we shouldn't have to live in physical pain. I believe that we can feel stronger and healthier and, yes, younger every day that we live. I believe that you can have a successful online business without the stress of like, holy shit, what's going to happen when I go on vacation, right? I believe that you can create success for yourself in business without being, a sleazeball and without doing shit that's out of integrity or things like that, right? So when we talk about beliefs out there and we talk about that in a powerful way that separates the water, that creates some polarity, that's super attractive to people, super duper attractive. By the way, Netta and Georgie, if you guys want to, I'm not monitoring the chat generally. I see Georgie, you wrote, can't see what you're drawing, which is helpful information. Just speak it to me so that I can hear it, because then I'm not looking at the chat. All right, so the manifesto is what draws people in, right? And then they meet the mentor. And the mentor, guess who the mentor is? Can anyone guess who the mentor is? The mentor is you. You are the mentor, right? That's a bit fat. Let me do a thinner marker. Here we go. So you are the mentor. And that, again, it doesn't matter if you're building a huge company or just a tiny one-person company, you're still the mentor. The company is the mentor. What we're offering is the mentoring is like, hey, here's the thing that's going to solve your problem. It's like step by step, like buy this iPhone, set it up. And now you're in, communication with everybody, right? Like there's going to be some kind of like step by step, a mentor there that talks to people about what they need to do. We also, very importantly, give people a new identity. A new identity. The new identity is super duper important because that is like, we label them, right? We label them, we give them a way to identify themselves. And the way we see ourselves, super important for how we live our lives. There's a book called The New Psycho-Cybernetics, which is it's kind of a dry read, but it's a very good point. Anyone that's been in marketing for a while are familiar with it, because Dan Kennedy bought the rights to that book because he was like, this is so important. The story is essentially it's a plastic surgeon. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second here. It's a plastic surgeon who realizes that he can do these plastic surgery operations on people's faces and stuff, but they come back. A certain number of them come back, later, a few months later, wanting more surgery, right? They feel ugly. And then they're like, oh, can you make this change to my nose or my lips or my ears or whatever? And then he goes and does that. And then they're like, oh, it's still not, like, oh, make this change now. And then he does that. And then they come back and say, I still feel ugly, right? Because their self-image, and that's what he realized, their self-image is, I'm ugly. And as long as their self-image is, I'm ugly, they're going to start showing up in the world as, I'm ugly. And they're going to look in the mirror and they're going to see, I'm ugly, right? Because your self-image, how you see yourself, is powerful. And the reason why is that your unconscious mind is 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. And this is literal. This is actually literally true in the sense that your conscious mind is able to process about 40 inputs per second, whereas your unconscious mind processes 40 million inputs per second, right? So like your unconscious mind is fucking in charge, no matter what you think. It's driving the show, right? It's driving the show. And the self-image is essentially what tells your unconscious mind how to operate. So if you don't, so Anna's saying, and she's like, yes, she recognizes this exactly, right? So your unconscious mind is super duper powerful. So we want to have that self-image installed. And by giving your tribe, your customers, a new identity that is commensurate, that matches their desired outcome, you're going to make them 1,000,000 times more likely to succeed. 1,000,000 times more likely to succeed in getting that outcome than if you don't, right? And so just by shifting people's identity, right? I took a writing workshop and they were like, write your name and then comma author, Calvin Correli, comma author, put it on the sign in front of you. Like, you are now an author. Like, think of yourself as an author. Don't wait till you've finished writing the book and published it to think of yourself as an author. Think of yourself as an author right now. And so coming up with a great name for that new identity is really, really helpful. And then so this is where basically they become a prospect in your funnel. I'm going to pick a new fancy prospect, new fancy color here, prospect, right? And then over here is where they become a customer. And that's where you want to, we call that the conversion, right? And that's where they go exclusive, right? I'm in your tribe, not in these other tribes. And then they get the result and they get the elixir, if you will, or let's just call it the result. They have I'll fucking write elixir also, just for the reference to the what's that? Oh, I'm not sharing. Thank you. Oh, I forgot. I've all this technology, guys. Thanks, Georgie. I appreciate that. Drawing, but all for myself. Here we go. So we are looking at this phase here, right? So they have they're a prospect. They meet the mentor over here. They convert. That's why they buy your stuff, and this is where they get the results. I'm going to put the result here. And then that turns them into an evangelist. So if you look at a couple of examples of where this works really, really well is, CrossFit or keto or things of that nature, right? You have clearly sort of a cult, a movement. Yes, we have the same mindset, the same belief, Starbucks, Apple, doesn't matter. They all have this beliefs, and you come in, you meet them, you learn, then you convert, you buy the stuff, and you're like, I'm an iPhone person, right? And then it's literally you see it's like, oh no, you text someone and their text bubbles are no longer blue and they're green, and you're like, oh shit, you abandoned the team, man. Like, you go on Android, you can't do that, right? And then maybe they come back and but when they're really happy, they get the result, then they become the evangelist. So that's how this all works. And let's just see here, workshop really quickly, and then I'll take your guys' questions. So the future for Simplero, I would nail that down to, so we're talking about the desire for change, and then we're talking about the future. I would nail that down to prosperity, right? Because Simplero is a business software, so money, wealth, that's the name of the game here. But I also would want to add the word purpose, right? People want to be, and the people that we work best with are people who are living their life purpose, who are here to have an impact, who are here to contribute, who are people that are on a mission and they're aware of it. They're not just looking to make a buck. Although they're definitely looking to make a buck. It's funny, when you look at Simplero, income per customer that we have compared to some of these other platforms out there, when they share like how many customers they have and how much or have had and over time, and how much money these people have made, ours are making on average like 5x typically the amount per customer that other platforms do. So definitely into the making of money part, but with purpose and peace of mind. So that's what I would say, that's the future. That's what we offer people. Then slogan. So this is a fun one. This is a where you can brainstorm a phrase that you can use to sort of like, if you were running for president of your tribe, like what would the campaign slogan be, right? And so you want it to be something that talks about that future that you're designing for people. What is that? What would that campaign slogan be? And for Simplero, what I came up with, and this is something that you want to obviously test with people and see if it resonates with them, right? But you have to come up with something that you like to begin with, and something that speaks to a powerful, exciting future. Impact with integrity is the one that I came up with for Simplero. But that's a really powerful one. And slogans are hard to come up with, guys, but they're very, very important. Super duper important. Take action and make shit happen. Live well now. Yes, that's nice. That's cool. Yeah, I think live well now could probably be even more powerful. Like, well could probably be a stronger word there. Nice. Okay. Next one down this piece here is the new identity. That's one that I think we need to, for Simplero, we need to workshop a bit more, like come up with something. What we have for now is Trailblazer. But I'd like to have something that's more unique to us and to Simplero. But we're all about being trailblazers. We're all about coming up with a new, new ways to do things on every level of life. By the way, so I'm going to take questions soon. So if you have some questions, let's get them on. Team, if you can start queuing people up, we're going to take some questions after we're done with this, okay? All right, manifesto. So this is where this is like, that's not gonna fit in a little box here, right? This is where you're gonna come up with a bunch of of statements that could be included in a manifesto, statements about what you believe to be true about the world or life, and then put them together into a manifesto. And again, you want to, you know, test this with the audience to see if it resonates with the right kind of person and like which ones hit them in the heart, right? You want to have something that's like really speaks to people. So I'm not going to go super deep into that right here. Enemies is a fun one. I know, like I consider myself a spiritual entrepreneur, right? And I know a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, and we don't really want to pick enemies, right? We don't really want to be against anything or anyone, or like, and enemies is such a strong word, guys. It's such a strong word. But here's the thing. It's really powerful to have strong, clear enemies. Really, really powerful. To be like here's who we're against. Like, so for I think there's like, for Simplero, I think it could be something like, you know, quote unquote experts. And what I mean by that is like experts that don't have the lived experience, right? Because Simplero is all about the hero's journey, right? People who have actually done the work, who've been, responded to that call to adventure, who've met the mentor and slayed the dragons, and then returns back to the people with the elixir, right? That's what we're about. That's who we're for, right? Jethro is asking world with character movement, or did I miss those parts? No, we're going to get to the character next time. We don't have time to get into that today. So these are we're putting together some of the elements for your movement. And then we're going to talk all about the character next time we talk. And this is the worldview stuff. This is where that stuff goes, right? Like your worldview is essentially your manifesto, is like your worldview. So that's where that stuff comes in. Yeah. And yeah, so for Simplero, experts without lived experience could be enemies, like educational system, right? Schools and colleges and universities that don't teach people what they actually need to learn to be successful as human beings and in life and work and business, etc. Complicated software could be an enemy. Maybe even like software itself, sort of like, hey, it's not about the software, right? It's like, it's about your audience and what you can do for them and interacting with clients, with customers, etc. Victimhood could be one, right? Thinking that like you're at the mercy of life. Like we're all about like figuring out, being creators, figure out what you want and make that happen. Figure out what steps you need to take. Seeing yourself as a victim is never helpful. That could be a thing. That is an enemy. Like, yeah, those could be enemies. Result, again, for Simplero would be something like, we absolutely want to have a successful info business, right? Without that, we're nothing. Oh, I hit something here. There you go. People want to have impact. And we talked about peace of mind, right? Both because they're in integrity with themselves and their business, but also because they are, they know that their shit is not going to break in the middle of the night or in the middle of a vacation. And then one other thing that I forgot here that we want to include, which is the inner transformation. So who are people becoming? Inner transformation. So who are people becoming at the end of this, right? So we have the results, the outer results that you get when you do this, but then we also have the inner transformation. Who do we become as a result of doing this? And that's equally powerful. Is actually in many instances it's more powerful, the inner transformation, but it's not what people are buying, right? People are buying the outer result and then they get the inner transformation, but that's what actually makes them that actually means something to them at the end of the day. Because like, you know, more money doesn't make us happy. We know that, right? I'm going to go with integrated entrepreneur here. So that's the coin that I termed where your business and your health and your relationships and your creativity are all supporting your life purpose and everything is in perfect harmony. That would be a great, I think, final step for or like inner transformation to guide people through. So this is what I encourage you guys to do is do what I just did here for your brand. As for the manifesto, you'll want to, that's a longer process. You'll want to write down all of these different elements. This can help you brainstorm, right? So we talked about the promise is basically what I call result over on the other page. Core values and core beliefs and absolutes, those go into and stand for and stand against. So I'll reorganize this one here. This is the first time I'm teaching this stuff, so working through it. So if you take these guys, stand for, stand against, all of that stuff, all of this goes into your this becomes fodder for your manifesto. Okay? And it becomes, fodder for all of your communication out in the world, right? Where you talk about that stuff. But it starts with you getting clear on what that is. I guess enemies is also like, I feel like enemies is its own thing. There's like where you stand against, but obviously you're going to communicate about your enemies as well. And like the stories you're going to communicate a ton, obviously, all over the place, right? So no question about that. Yeah, with that, I think that's it for today. And then next time we talk, we are going to talk all about the character, like defining you as the character, as the leader here, the fearless leader that can help people go from where they were to where they are. But I wanted to start with the worldview because that's going to inform how we craft you as a character. And when I say craft you as a character, I mean that obviously you are who you are, and we want you to keep being who you are. But you want to exaggerate certain facets and not particularly focus on some others. That's how you get really like a really strong, attractive character that people can relate to. All right, ready for some questions? Who do we have?
I'm going to bring Anna on, but we also have some questions in the doc from YouTube and some people who are a little shy. So if you want to take
All
a
right,
while I bring her over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe you can just like read the questions that you would like me to answer, and then I'll jump in there. Hey, Anna, how's it going? You're muted. You are on mute.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I did a little workshop with you that I paid like $100 for, and it was great. And I would do that again and again. But my question is, I heard someone talking about using Facebook ads instead of trying to do a funnel, and that you do like, you just kind of do like a little thing like you're doing now, really. I mean, just a live where you basically are telling people like about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And he talked about some people having interest, and he talked about finding people who have commitment, which I think is talking about finding your tribe. What do you think about Facebook ads?
Yeah. Facebook ads are great. I don't think that one excludes the other here. Facebook ads can be a great way to attract people, and you can run Facebook ads that are just all about beliefs, all about the things that go into your manifesto, or all about the things that you believe in, and be like, if you believe that too, then join in here. Or it can be like great. Leading with ideas can be like a great, like changing people's beliefs really essentially, right? About or confirming suspicions, confirming beliefs they already have. I think that can be great for ads. It can be something that can spread, right? Ads don't have to be like super you don't have to have a strong call to action. Like what you can do is you can run these, like we do that like for some of my personal brand stuff, right? Where we put out content and then we're like, oh, people seem to resonate with this and like this. Let's put some ad spend behind it so a lot more people see it. And just by them liking or commenting or sharing, now we're actually building up an audience in Facebook of people who've engaged with this content, and that we can then retarget with some like more ads that could be more training on certain things. And then we can kind of bring them along the funnel like that. I think that can absolutely work. The thing with Facebook is that it's, you just have to be committed to it, because there's a lot of work in figuring out how to do it right.
Right.
So you have to have a commitment there.
But I do think in some ways, like it gets you out there. And like you said, I mean, you kind of are your brand. Mm-hmm. And I believe that that's true. I mean, mm-hmm. you and I can't remember the gentleman, Damon, I think was his name. You guys mm-hmm. just completely sold me, but what I hate is the whole funnel thing. Like, I just want to get out there and get my message out there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try the Facebook, but I don't want to take up everybody's time.
No, absolutely. Like, I mean, I think that's like just going out there and providing value and helping people answer their questions and, help them, take the first steps. As much as you can do that, that's phenomenal. Just, contribute, and that's going to attract the right people to you that have this problem, that like the way that you explain things. And yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I'm just thinking like of using that as maybe a first step, then do my webinar with the committed people that decide they want to know more, For sure.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of questions in here that don't want to go live, but Jordy is actually waiting, so I'm going to bring him on.
All right, Jordy, my man, did you change your shirt?
Oh.
Did you have a wardrobe change?
I think I should change my shirt now before I start my video.
You should, or take the shirt off and do it shirtless.
No, we can do it as well, but let's wait for that for a bit.
All right, that's for a later hour. All right, Jordy, we're gonna do a shirtless show next week.
I love it.
What can I do for you?
All right, like in the Course Lounge challenge, like everybody who isn't on there, it's beautiful, it's great, beautiful value. But what I wanted to say is, like, you were saying, like, the jargon, like, stay away from it. You're going for a business audience, so try to stay away from it. But now I also sense some things from you that you also struggle with it, because you don't want your identity called a trailblazer. You find it's more, right? Or different things. I have a sense like that. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to like brainstorm a little bit, like how can we integrate this new identity, this worldview what you and I have into our business without making too much enemies and scaring off too much people.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way again. There's 7+ billion people in the world, and you only want to work with, let's say, like a couple thousand, or or maybe even just a couple hundred, right? So if we scare a truck ton of people away, that aren't a good fit, that's a good idea. That's great. Like you're not wasting any time or energy with these people, right? So it's about being very intentional with it. When it comes to that new identity, that has a very, very, very specific purpose. And the purpose is to start to change people's self-image, right? I am this kind of person. And Trailblazer is not bad. It can totally work. Like it doesn't have to be something super unique in that way. Like just saying that like you're an author, nothing unique about that, but that already starts to create the transformation. However, if you can come up with something that's like more unique and more specific and more on brand, like an example is like, there's a lady that's like talks about lady boss, right? You're a lady boss, and that's kind of her word. And so that becomes of like, I'm a lady boss. It's like very specific what it is. Yannick Silver has a group that's called the Mavericks, right? You're a Maverick. I mean, there are other people in the world that use the word Maverick, but if you're a Maverick and you're like, you know what that means in this world kind of things, right? So, and Trailblazer might do the trick for us. I just haven't fully decided or settled on that. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah. And it's, of course, there are so many different paths and so many new different.
And this is something that happens once they've decided to join your tribe, right? It's not something that you put out there to get people to join. That's the belief stuff. That's the manifesto stuff, right? That's the stuff that goes out. Let me just share my screen here again.
Basically in the most best way, in the sixth dimension, like there's no identity, right? We're all one.
Yeah, I mean, we're human beings, right? We're human beings. We have opinions, we have beliefs, and that's a good thing because that's what lets you separate people, right? So you wanna hear out here, you're talking manifesto, you're communicating. That's you broadcasting out to people who have the same worldview as you, right? Who see the world the same way, or the worldview that you want them to have, the people that you want to work with, right? So that's kind of like your lighthouse kind of thing, if you will. I don't know if I can draw a lighthouse. That does not look like a lighthouse at all. All right, this gets embarrassing. All right, I'm gonna draw.
I love the drawing skills, man.
Right, it's a phenomenal drawer. Anyway, so you want to have, I think, something like this. It would be a lighthouse, right? You have this like beam thing out there, and it's probably yellow and shit. So there you go. That's my lighthouse for you. So that's the belief stuff, and that's where you want to talk to beliefs that they already have, maybe unconsciously, right? So you're like, hey, it shouldn't be this hard. You shouldn't have to like be a sleazeball just to have a successful online business. You shouldn't have to upload your logo to 5 different tools and like log into 10 different systems just to run a fucking online business. You shouldn't go on vacation to be scared that your shit won't run and something's going to break and that it's going to ruin your fucking vacation, right? Like those kind of beliefs that they might not have articulated, but now that you articulate them, they're like, fuck yeah, that's right, right? That's what you want. That's the manifesto piece, right? And then once they raise their hand and they say, okay, yeah, I'm in, then you're like, fuck yeah, you're a trailblazer. You're awesome. Like, you got this, right? When Trailblazer works well for us in the sense that like we're not very well known in the market, right? So like we make that a point of pride. Yeah, you're not one of the sheep that just go with whatever everybody else does because that's what everybody else does and they haven't like thought for themselves and they can't think independently, right? That's not you, right? Kind of like the Apple think different. Like you're trailblazer, you're pioneer, you're maverick, you're someone who thinks for yourself, right? So that's where that new identity comes in.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jordy.
Thanks for continuity.
Okay, so we have a question from Stephanie. And this is about when you were talking about enemies. So she wants to know, is it appropriate to have the individual's past as their enemy?
Yeah, you can totally do that. You can absolutely do that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a person. It can be, a thing. It can be a concept. It can be, the past. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. We also have from Ohm Selection on YouTube. Is it powerful or useful to direct your marketing specifically to a subgroup?
Yeah, if I understand the question correctly, yes. I mean, the more niche you go, the more specific, the more narrow you go, the more powerful it becomes. And like, this is something that I've struggled with a lot, because I'm like most other people. I can help everybody. I want to be for everybody, right? But really, the more narrow, specific you can go, the more powerful it's going to be. And so here's what happens is, I'm going to try to draw this thing. Look at that, right? Look at him go. I wish it was like a quicker way to switch over to the drawing situation, because it's like several steps here, and then you see that, like, there you go. Anyway, so when you're being very specific, you're planting a flag here and saying, I'm going to draw sort of like a Denmark looking flag, whatever. So you're planting a flag and saying, this is who I'm for. But other people over here can still look at that. They look at that flag. This is them looking at the flag. And then they're like, okay, not exactly me, but it still works for me, right? So it's like, or think of it like you're mapping out, this is the exact kind of person that I'm looking for. They're very square. Their arms go out like that. Their legs are like super weird, and their hair is like this. This is who I'm going for. You're signaling that very clearly. But this other guy over here looks somewhat different. But even though I was like, okay, this is not really for me, I now understand exactly what it is, and I can see how it could help me. Does that make sense? So like, just because you're very clear on who you're for doesn't mean that those are the only people that you can help. That's up to you. I was talking to someone over at Dan Martell, and with his coaching program, SaaS Academy, and she also works for Taki Moore, who has this black belt program. And she was telling me, and Vanessa is her name, she was telling me how like the more they've built their coaching business, the more narrow they've gone with their criteria. If you look at Dan Martell's SaaS Academy, I think he actually has on the website, it's like very specific. You're the founder, operator of a SaaS company. You're full-time working in the business. You're making at least 10K monthly recurring revenue. You have technical expertise on board. Like if you don't meet those criteria, then you're not welcome. Then he has other content that helps bring you to that level, right? Free content and some workshops and stuff, but you're not welcome in his coaching program if you don't meet that criteria. So he has a very, very specific avatar, and he'll like do free content for anybody that cares to listen, but you're not welcome in his programs. So it's up to you how much you want to delineate it in that sense. But it is helpful to be specific, because then people know who you're for and who you're not. And it's just, when it gets amorphous, they don't know what to do with it. They're like, I guess it's great, right? It has less value that way. Yeah.
Awesome. We have a question from Kenneth. He's on YouTube. He wants to know how he can create his brand. He is a coach that coaches through divorces, and he's also a software consultant. All
right. You're in the right place, man. You are in the right place. So yeah, everything that we're going through here today and next time, et cetera, should help you build that brand. And yeah, it's a little too generic of a question for me to answer like that, but go through the exercise and see what you come up with. But I will say that there's power in, I don't know if these two, like, a divorce coach and software consultant, I'm not sure these two fit together, but there's always a way. Like for me, I'm a software engineer, right, and a spiritual teacher and a serial entrepreneur. So I put that on my website, like literally those three things, because it's something that people are like a little bit like, whoa, how does that, like, software engineer and serial entrepreneur and spiritual teacher, how does that stuff go together, right? I love putting things together that you don't expect to see in the same sentence or like in the same person. because that evokes curiosity, and it makes you stand out. There's, when you combine multiple sets of skills, you can combine it to be something very unique and very powerful. And I think that having that software background very well makes you a better coach, because there's an engineering mindset there of like, causality, understanding causality and relationships, and, bug fixing, and just that mindset of like, and specificity, and sort of a reality that's unbending, right? Like the code freaking runs or it doesn't, right? There's not a lot of malleability. The shit works or it doesn't work, kind of thing. So I think that can be super powerful, and that's something that you can definitely use in your brand and say, hey, like I take a software, you say software consultant, I'm not 100% what that means, but I said take like the software, like the engineering approach to divorce, like with like that engineering mindset and heart, right? Because you probably want the heart piece in there as well. Yeah. All right, next up.
Yeah, so sorry if I say this the wrong way, but Jethro this is more of a general question. He's saying he's really impacted by your words, and he wants to know if there's more coming from Simplero.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing these for a while. I want to go through, like I said, all of this stuff, and this is the first time that I'm teaching this. As you can see, like we're only part way through brand, and so it's gonna be like a several month long process of me sharing everything that I know about marketing. And at the end of it, I'll just be completely honest with you guys. The reason I'm doing this is to help me organize my thoughts, and to see, and then like do it in a public way that where I can see what resonates with you guys and what you find helpful and useful. And I get something that I can share with, I have, several members of my team right here, right now, right? Netta's here, George is here. I don't know who else on the team is there, but I'm sure that Georgie and Netta, who are working on Team Calvin, on my personal brand team, that you guys are having insights and learnings from this that we are going to go now apply to the Calvin brand, right? As well as Simplero brand. So for me, it's a way to also educate everybody else on my team on these things. So yeah, so lots more to come. And then I'm sure it'll materialize in all kinds of different ways as well. Like part of my goal here is to, once I've sort of really organized the whole framework, the big pictures, try to see if there's a way to come up, a visual way to really make everything fit into sort of one of those like kind of big, what do they call these like maps where you find this guy with a striped shirt? What are they called? What are they called? Netta, do you know? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, but I'm totally spacing.
Where's Waldo?
Oh, where's Waldo?
Waldo, yeah. The Waldo thing. Not quite as confusing, right? Hopefully less confusing, but still like one of those kind of big maps that you can zoom in on an area and then you can zoom out, and you can, so you know where you are in the process. I guess like a mind map, but more visually illustrative. So that's my goal. And then build that into the product, into Simplero itself. That's the long-term plan here. So you guys are pioneers and part of this process from an early stage, and I appreciate you for being with me on this journey. Do we have more questions?
Not right now. We're getting some comments about how much people are learning. I think a few people have told me they need some time to process everything that you're sharing. So next time, come ready with as many questions as you have.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And this is like, and I go pretty fast. I know that I'm a fast talker. So I get that. And yet we only got so far because there's a ton of ground to cover. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thanks, guys. If that's it, then let's sign off for today. And thank you to everyone who was here and commented and asked questions. And I'll see y'all next week. I think we're going to do the same thing next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we'll just keep going, keep plodding along. And at the end of this, you'll know every single thing that I know about marketing, and you will be superheroes, marketing superheroes. All right. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you for being here. Bye.